Hello, everyone, and welcome to Canadians with Disabilities and their Allies. My name is Brent Frain. I'm the host. I have MP Bonita Zarrillo joining me today from Port Moody, Coquitlam. It is so awesome to have you joining me on the show today, Bonita. And before we get started, I just wanted to let the audience know that this is a pre-recorded session. We are not live today. So your comments, any comments you send will not be displayed under the comments section.
There will be comments. You can put comments after,
After
but
the fact.
there's just no live chat. So if people tune in and go, well, "Where's the live chat?" It's because this isn't live.
Yeah, it's not live.
Yeah.
And you can check out the podcast on your favorite app on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you find your app best suited for you. Again, I just want to thank Bonita so much for joining us today. This is so awesome to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. And Happy New Year to you. It's just the start of the new year. And I appreciate you so much doing this interview so early in the year. Thanks so much.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. And Happy New Year, Bonita. It's a great start to the new year. And we got an Arctic outflow coming into British Columbia. So,
yeah. Well, we did try to get you on last year a couple of times, but we know it's so tight to get you on sometimes. And that's why we're doing this pre-record, because we know schedules are tight, so we're really happy to circle back to you this year and get you on. So it's great.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
it's awesome. So Bonita, do you have any updates on the Canada Disability Benefit C-22? Of course, obviously, we know that there's it's a very long waited disability benefit, and I know that there was petitions going out before for DERB. And of course, they were shot down by the federal government, giving people that relief while they work on the disability benefit, which is a long time down the road. So now we're approaching 4 years.
Yes, even more, really. I mean, they promised it 7 years ago, right? I'd like to get right into it. So I'll just start by letting folks know that I'm here on the unceded and traditional territory of the Coquitlam in British Columbia, and it's always a good opportunity to gather together to have these conversations about community and how we support each other and consider that for generations to come, as have been done for millennia, that we're here to support each other. So I think the conversation about the Canada Disability Benefit and C-22 is how we care for each other, how we support each other. And I think it is it's been very difficult for folks last year. And with the rising cost of living, I've heard from so many people that, this Canada Disability Benefit is a life-changing benefit. And as food becomes more expensive, as housing becomes more expensive, it becomes more urgent. And unfortunately, the Liberals seem to be okay with the status quo and, without push, are compelled to just maintain that status quo. So that's the work that the NDP is doing. That's the work that I've been doing around the Canada Disability Benefit. And I remind the listeners, and I know that we've had many discussions about this, and I know you've had this on your show a number of times before, that if it wasn't for the push, the unanimous consent motion, the push from the NDP, we still probably disability benefit wouldn't be lost. So I think the discussion needs to be that we've got to win, but there's no actual disability benefit in people's bank accounts yet. And we are going to need to continue to push this Liberal government. And I think about that in a way also too, the Conservatives haven't come to the table and pushed this. Have we heard much from the Conservatives, right? Exactly. Where is every member of Parliament on the fact that there's persons with disabilities living in this country that are disproportionately living in poverty, that are disproportionately being affected by the cost of living? And Canada, as a signatory to the United Nations Convention on Persons with Disabilities, has an international obligation to support the quality of life and the living conditions and the needs of persons with disabilities, as well as all Canadians in this country.
One thing I wanted to mention as well is one of the times that I wanted to get you on, I think it was in the summer of last year, roughly. I wanted to get both you and Mike Morris on together, actually, to recognize the fact that it's basically you and Mike Morris that are like the two-headed monster, basically, that is really doing all the push for the CDB. Like, it's basically you and Mike up there, like, doing all the volleys, and so that's kind of why I wanted to try to do a duo with the two of you, because I thought it would be just fascinating to have both of you going back and forth, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that on the NDP side it's you, and then on the Green side it's Mike, and like from the disability community, we really appreciate the tireless work on both sides, that's happening for that.
Yeah,
thank you so much
for that. It's such wonderful work that you and Mike are doing, and your other colleagues too that are involved with the Canada Disability Benefit and pushing for DERB. People's lives don't get put on hold. Advocacy never gets put on hold. We just keep pushing forward. Bonita, there was another thing I want to quickly throw at you. I know there was an article out there floating around on Google about the CWC recruitment 2024, stating that the Canada Disability Benefit, the dates and the amounts, it's very false information that was floating out there.
I saw that too.
And I saw it, and of course I started researching right away. What is this? But I think this is capitalism.
Yeah.
This is an organization or a business that tried to capitalize on a program, and I think that's what they're doing. They're trying to make money off of a disability, a federal program. And I think it appears to be really in bad faith, and I'm sorry to see that, because I think that when we're dealing with something as important as this, that there shouldn't be false information flying around. But when I saw that, I immediately looked into it. I'm like, this is how would I have not heard of this?
Yeah. I know. I saw that too, and it kind of blew my doors off. I'm like, why are they posting this? This is false information. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was very disappointing announcement that the federal finance minister had made regarding for DERB, saying that if they put DERB in, that they would have to put a pause on the Canada Disability Benefit. They couldn't afford to do both.
And I just can't believe that. I just can't believe that, and I actually
quite shocked about that.
I'm not happy with that excuse that keeps coming up, is that we can't offer a DERB, we can't offer an emergency benefit because we're working on the other piece. We know that regulation and consultation on regulation has been going on for years. We know that the federal government could absolutely be offering an emergency benefit. They did it with CERB. They have the ability to offer an emergency benefit. What worries me about that is, being able to locate every Canadian that needs the support. So let's say we know with the CERB, and when they did a disability payment on top of the CERB, that it was very difficult to get to everybody that needed it, every person with a disability that needed it. And I'm concerned, I'm going to go into a little bit of a different topic here. I'm concerned about the disability tax credit being the entry point for the Canada Disability Benefit. And I'm concerned about that even with the DERB. So I know if the government would commit to an emergency benefit, which we know is needed, they're not going to reach everyone, because they most likely would have to apply it through the DTC.
Right.
But at least there would be some relief out in the community. But I do not want this Canada Disability Benefit to be relying on the disability tax credit. And that is work that I've done in HUMA. There is a report to Parliament that we want the CRA to explore how automatic recognition of persons with disabilities can come if you're on a provincial, territorial, or federal program already. That you would automatically be identified.
Like how hard is it to use the T5007? I mean, that should just be an automatic thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil, I've spoken to the minister about that. I've spoken to the previous minister about that. That is a recommendation that's come forward. Seems to appear a simple step, and I just wonder why they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Well, especially when the PWD file their income tax, right? It's the federal government already has that information, so they can easily just get it right out to those recipients, just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what we found out when the CERB came out was that wasn't stored in the data, in the CRA database,
which is crazy. It's crazy. It should be. Yeah. It should be. One thing I wanted to touch on is like we had Sheila Malcolmson on. When was that? It was a while back, and I didn't know if you wanted to touch a little bit on what you foresee as the amount maybe is, because I know that when we had her on, I know that she's talked a lot about the MBM measure. And we all know the MBM market basket measure is around maybe $2,100 a month, roughly. And so if we use that as a target, like here in BC, the single amount is roughly around $1,300 or so. So going from $1,300 to about $2,100 is a significant jump. And I don't know, do you have a comment on that about the projected dollar? I mean, we don't know. But I think it's safe to say if the provinces are targeting that MBM, as it seems like Sheila is talking about behind the scenes in consultations, is that what your feeling is too? Is that they're going to target the MBM measure, or what's your feeling about that?
Well, it was great that you had Sheila on, and I'd love to see BC be a leader in this area. I'd love to see BC be the leader where no person living with disability in BC is living in poverty. I mean, I would love to see that. This is what's kept me up at night as a member of Parliament for the NDP since I started looking at the Canada Disability Benefit, is that I immediately reached out to human rights lawyers to say, like, what is the Canadian government's obligation here? And what would hold up in a court of law as we start looking at what legislation needs to look like for the Canada Disability Benefit? And they spoke to me about adequacy, and that's the MBM, Neil, because, we have a Poverty Reduction Act, and it is tied to the market basket measure. So the market basket measure needs to be the floor of any benefit. That needs to be the floor. And then when this went, so that was a hard battle. And I think your listeners probably know that when I brought that as part of the NDP, when the NDP wanted to add to the legislation that this benefit could be no less than the MBM, that the government came back and said, oh, well, this needs royal recommendation because that would mean additional spending. So what that flagged to me was that the federal government never expected that this benefit was going to actually reach the poverty line.
Oh, wow.
And that was devastating. And and when I brought it to committee, when we did the line by line, it was ruled out of scope. They would not even have a discussion about asking for a royal recommendation on that. So the way that we managed to keep it in, the NDP managed to keep it in, is it's in regulation now that it has to be adequate, that this benefit has to be adequate, and that this benefit, which means, meeting the poverty line.
And I know clawbacks are a big thing too, right?
And this is another area that, this is another area that the Liberal government, they didn't want to have the conversation about the clawback. They just wanted to get this thing filed and into law.
And especially with people who have disabilities, their added expenses are way above that MBM. But at least if we can get to that MBM and we can work from that point on and then index it to the inflation, they call it COLA, cost of living adjustment. At least if we can get to that level, no less than poverty level. I mean, ideally, it would be nice if we could, have a federal amount topped up on top, like enough on top of the provincial levels. Now, of course, in reality, that's going to push up to like $3,000 a month.
We all know that having a disability is way more expensive. Like, automatically, right? But bare minimum, it should be MBM, like absolute floor, like Bonita's saying.
Well, yeah,
and I like
I
like the way you're thinking, and I agree with you, Brent. Like, the federal government has made a commitment to poverty reduction. Mm-hmm. So the federal government, in my opinion, has the responsibility to the MBM, but then there is the opportunity for the provinces to be enhancing that on top of that, right? Mm-hmm. What are those expenses that you're talking about? What is that? So, I mean, that's not the way that the federal government looked at this benefit. That's the way the NDP would have looked at this benefit, but that's not the way they're looking at this benefit. What I'm hearing from the government over and over and over again is it's going to be a top up. It's going to be a flat number. And we don't know what that number is right now. And there's no indication from the government what it's going to be. But I am with you, and the NDP is with you here, that it needs to be at minimum this adequate, this MBM at minimum.
We're already approaching the top of the hour. But I just wanted to as well talk about when do you think the time frame? Because I know. It'll be a year in June of 2024. It'll be a year of when it was first given royal assent, right? And then the government has again an additional year to actually enact it and fund it, right? So I think everybody in the disabled community now is acknowledging it's probably not going to be until June of 2025 when you're actually going to see the thing funded. But I just want to get your feedback and feeling about it as well.
Yeah, well, sorry, Brent, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I said a year and a half from now.
Yeah, and the ministers know, the minister that had it before and the new minister know that the disability community came in good faith and helped to advance this benefit to go into law. And the expectation was that this benefit would be delivered in a year from last Christmas, basically.
Right.
So to me and to the NDP, this should be delivered in the first quarter. I've asked for specifically through the HUMA committee. I brought a motion to committee. We need to let the minister know that this is there's not another year to wait, and there's no reason to do it. They've been doing consultation. They know what's needed. There is absolutely no reason. And I think this just goes to show that if you don't push these Liberals, if you don't force them, they won't do it. And I know that's political talk here, but this is the reality. We're talking about people's lives here, and they need to get this out the door. So it's my expectation that they will take serious the motion that came through the parliamentary committee, that we want this delivered at the beginning of this year.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a good mic drop moment, and we have to wrap up now, Brent.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you so much, Bonita. Love to have you on very soon again, and we'll continue our discussion where we left off regarding, the lived experience of people with disabilities. Like poverty doesn't end just like that, and advocacy never ends just like that either. It's the CDB needs to be put out immediately. And with like a DERB to help people get through the cost of living with the high cost of rents and everything else. Everything else is going right through the roof. So we'll have more of these discussions definitely very soon. I'll look forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for the invite, and also let's have another one of these just talking about the new dental care, dental program.
Yeah.
I was out on the doors this week, and people are excited about it. So I'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
okay. Thank you, Bonita.
Thank you so much. Okay. We'll stay in touch.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.